Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Franchise Hockey Manager 9 playthrough of the Chicago Blackhawks. We are about to begin the 2028-29 Stanley Cup playoffs, and the regular season has gone as well as possible for the Blackhawks. We are the President's Trophy winners with the best record in all of hockey, so we're going to have home ice advantage for as long as we continue winning. One on the last day of the season to get ahead of the Sabres in terms of points. Although, given that we've got more wins than them and the most wins in the league, we would have ended up winning it anyways, even if we had ended up tied with somebody for points with the most wins. Resurgence season for our star center, Dylan Larkin. Finally healthy for the first time in 4 years for the full season, and he put 46 goals into the net. And you can see that our goaltending duo of Jesper Wallstedt and Philip Svedebak has been brilliant, with those two all over the league leader charts. Taking a deeper look at the conference standings, our goal differential of 79 is the best in the West and the best in all of hockey. So this year, our 7th year of this rebuild of the Blackhawks, first time that I really felt like we had a team that was a legitimate Stanley Cup contender, built up through free agency, trades, and acquisitions of some young talent through the draft in the early seasons of this playthrough, along with some of the holdover young talent that the Blackhawks had. We have actually won a Stanley Cup with this team in our second season. That was definitely a shocking Stanley Cup, but this one, we'll see what happens in the playoffs, but feel like we should be a legitimate contender for a long run into June this year. The team is all healthy. We've got nobody on the injury list, so we are playing with the team that we intended as this playoff season begins. Also, it's going to be the final season for the Blackhawks in the United Center. Mentioned in previous episodes that we are in the midst of constructing the hockey-only Old School Sports Arena, and that's going to be available in about 2.5 months. On July 1st, the Blackhawks will be moving in there and moving out of the United Center. Had a great run in the United Center, typically been the top team in the league in attendance, and the Blackhawks have won 4 of their 7 Stanley Cup championships while playing their regular season games in the United Center. So you can see the history. We took over in 22-23. This will be our 4th playoff appearance in 7 years, and we do have the 1 championship. So as far as a rebuild, I think it's been acceptable. What happens this year and subsequent seasons is going to be the key. The hope is that we've built the foundation of a team that will be competing at the highest level for the next several seasons, and would hope that we are a perennial playoff team, and would certainly love to be raising another Stanley Cup or 2 over that time period to ensure that we can look back at this Let's Play as a success. And we have re-signed Dylan Larkin. This is a bit of a surprising move for us. We were very prepared to move on, given that he's going to be 33 next year. He was making a lot of money, and this past off-season, we had brought on the guys in Quinton Byfield and Matty Beniers, who we thought were going to be our first and second line centers for the next several seasons. But Larkin's contract demands were shockingly reasonable. You can see we got him signed to this extension for less than $4 million a year. Certainly expect that his skill level and his physical abilities are going to be trending in the wrong direction over the 3 years of that contract. But it's not egregious at less than $4 million a year. I think if we ever wanted to move on from it, we would be able to find someone to take it on. We might have to sweeten the pot for them a little bit, but it's not a deal where we're going to be trading multiple first-rounders or even any first-rounders to get out of it. And you can see, even at the age of 32 this year, Larkin pretty darn productive. He's been with the Blackhawks now for 6 seasons. First 2 years he was healthy, averaged well over a point a game with 45 and 53 goals. Next 3 years he only played about half of the time, but still averaged nearly a point a game over that time period. And then this year, healthy once again, 46 goals, the second most he's ever scored for us, and 39 assists, the second most that he's ever scored for us, well over a point a game. Even if it does mean that over the next few years he starts moving to become our second, or even maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, third line center, I think he's still a dynamic offensive player when he's healthy. So again, a little surprised that we ended up bringing him back, but you look at his offensive ratings and his physical ratings, they're still pretty solid. More than solid, honestly. His mental and his defensive ratings are in kind of the respectable to solid range. His physical and offensive ratings are both excellent. Now, those will likely be trending in a negative direction over the next few years, but at less than $4 million a year, I think it was a gamble worth taking. And we're still going to have the opportunity to revamp this team pretty significantly this coming off season if we want to, because Rasmus Andersson and Adrian Kemp, 2 fellow 32-year-olds like Larkin, who are combined making over $12.5 million a year, unlikely that we will re-sign either of them. So we're going to have some money to play with when we get to free agency. But that is not the top priority right now. It's good to have Larkin on board, but the top priority is seeing if these Blackhawks can go on a nice long playoff run as we prepare to close the United Center. And this team was definitely underrated this year. As we talked about, we didn't have any all-stars on the team, despite a pretty solid start to the season and obviously what ended up being a great season. And Larkin was actually left off of the all-star team at a time when he was leading the league in goals scored. So we'll see what we get in terms of big award nominees. Wallstedt nominated for the Vezina, so that's nice. Ooh, I was nominated for Executive of the Year. How nice. Selke Trophy, Paul Cotter nominated. And I was also nominated for the Jack Adams. So some nice nominations for me. Other than that, we'll hope that perhaps our expensive goalie that we traded away 2 first-round picks for a few years ago, plus other assets, Jesper Wallstedt, finally realizes his full potential. You can see he had probably his finest year of his 3 seasons in Chicago this year. 38 wins ties for a career high, 19 losses is the fewest he's ever lost. Best goals against and save percentage he's ever had. He did play a little less often this year than previous seasons, as we've felt pretty good with Svedback as his backup, and there were times when the AI actually wanted to start Svedback over him, and I wasn't paying close attention, and Svedback got a few games because of that as well. So feel like we've got a real good goaltending duo and a real good offense. We obviously have the best goals differential in the league, close to a goal a game. So we are the favorites. There's no running away from that, and we'll see what we can do in the playoffs. And we're going to be facing a divisional rival here in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Arizona Coyotes with 97 points. Pretty tight playoff race, actually, in the Western Conference this year. Only 9 points separating the 8th seed from our first-seeded Blackhawks. So that seems a bit tight. Looks like a little more of a spread there in the Eastern Conference, where there were 18 points separating the first-seeded Sabres and the Bruins, who got in with 86 points. But tight playoff race in the West, as we kind of talked about at various points throughout the season. Thinking about what the team is going to look like. As I mentioned, everyone is healthy, so David Jaracek, healthy scratch. Cole Sillinger draws the short straw at center. Would rather go with Nathan Villeneuve and the potential for a little more offense in a perfect situation. And then Frank Nazar gets the nod over the rookie Jordan Forget as far as our fourth line winger. But I feel like we've got a fair amount of depth, but over the last month and a half, there's been battles between Nazar and Forget, Sillinger and Villeneuve, and actually Mathis Dubé at times for kind of playing time among the forwards. It's been a little more clear among the defensemen. Jaracek has definitely been the odd man out. You can see he's only played 38 games this year. So when we've had people injured and banged up or back-to-backs and people not at complete fitness, he's gotten a decent amount of playing time. But the youngsters, Matteo Rotundi and Luke Coughlin, who had been in the early stages of the season kind of rotating through those fifth and sixth defenseman spots with Jaracek, have gotten a little bit more of a run over the past couple months of the season. And you can see as we get ready to set up our lines, the AI still defaults to Svedback as the goalie. We are going to put in Wallstedt, who we view as our number one, although it's certainly fair to view Svedback as a 1A at this point after the great season that he had. Looking at our lines with Eklund, Byfield, and Marner, that first line is very high-powered. Cotter, Larkin, and Shields on the second. Sharangovich, Matty Beniers, and Adrian Kemp on the third line is still a pretty productive offensive trio. And quite honestly, our fourth line, Mathis Dubé, Nathan Villeneuve, and Frank Nazar, three young players who have kind of come up together over the past few years. Probably not as strong a checking line and probably not as much physicality as you'd normally expect on a fourth line, but particularly in the case of Villeneuve, some pretty dynamic offensive players there. Quinn Hughes and Sam Rinzel, two excellent offensive defensemen on our first line defensively. Korchinski and the veteran Rasmus Anderson on the second line. And then the two youngsters who were both drafted in the first round of our first draft in 2023, Matteo Rotundi and Luke Coughlin, now paired up as our third-line defenseman. Can't remember the order, but I think one of them was drafted 16th overall and the other drafted 20th overall. And now they are becoming an established pairing together, although with the potential departure of Rasmus Anderson this coming off season, it's possible that they'll be split up next year. But that is not the concern right now. We are ready to hopefully get these playoffs off to a good start home against Arizona, and a 5-1 win for the Blackhawks to start things off. So that is absolutely the way we want things to go. Oh, Connor Bedard going to miss 4 days, and Pasta from the Bruins going to be out for 6 weeks. So those teams both took some hits. Certainly Boston more significant in to their Stanley Cup chances. I mentioned Villeneuve, a pretty dynamic offensive player on the fourth line with Dubé. 2 assists for Villeneuve, a goal and an assist for Dubé, and Sam Rinzel with a goal and an assist. So nice start. Also got a goal from Kevin Korchinski, the defenseman. Dylan Larkin, the veteran, scored, and then Marner, the veteran, scored with assists from Byfield and Rotundi. So can't ask for a better start to a playoff series than a 5-1 win. I guess you could hope for a 6-0 win, but the team is healthy. Don't think we're going to really look to change anything up. Fitness levels with a day in between for everyone are fine. Not going to change anything. Keep the lines the same. Keep Wallstedt in goal, and would love to go up 2-0 before we head out west to Arizona. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. A 5-2 loss. So Arizona takes home ice advantage away from us. Bit disappointing. Looks like they obviously had a big offensive game, and we did not. Did get goals from Korchinski with an assist from Sharangovich. Marner with an assist from Byfield when it was kind of out of hand. Wallstedt saved 30 of 34 shots. Their goalie, Hay, saved 25 of 27. So looks like it's just one of those games, but unfortunately, the way things are in the playoffs, that now puts some pressure onto our Blackhawks as we travel out to Arizona. We're going to still run with the same lineup. As I mentioned, it's the lineup that's got us here. Cotter at 96% fitness isn't low enough that I want to take him out of the lineup for a playoff game, but it's conceivable. Game 4, we may need to look to the bench for someone to give him a bit of a rest if he's even less fit than he is today. But we do bounce back with a 6-3 win in Game 3 of the series, so we've taken home ice back. Kevin Korchinski was checked for an incident, but no additional punishment, so that's good. Quinn Hughes, the defenseman, with a goal and 2 assists. Sam Rinzel, his line mate, with 2 goals and 1 assist. And Mitch Marner with 3 goals. So a good, dynamic offensive performance for the Blackhawks in Game 3. You can see we also got a goal from Larkin, his second of the playoffs. And then he added his third of the playoffs. And Matty Beniers in the third period. Ooh, that's a nice one. It must have been was it an empty? No, I guess it wasn't an empty net or even strength. But with 4 seconds left in the game, Rasmus Anderson and Adrian Kemp, 2 guys who may not be with us next year, got the puck to Matty Beniers, and he brought it home to put the cherry on top of the sundae. That was our win against Arizona in Game 3 of the first round. So hopefully we can take this one, get the team here in Game 4 into a position to potentially clinch it home. Larkin at 99% fitness, that's fine. Looks like Cotter is still as fit as you could hope. So we're going to run right back out with the team that we've been running thus far in this series and primarily these last few weeks of the season. 1-0 victory. So Wallstedt with a excellent performance, clearly. Mitch Marner, looks like we're getting a little chippy with Korchinski and Marner, but fortunately they have not had any suspensions. Looks like Eklund with the assist of Rotundi in the third period put us to the win midway through the third period. The defenseman Matteo Rotundi from Eklund and Marner. What kind of game did we get from Wallstedt? They didn't put a ton of pressure on him, just 20 shots, but he saved all of them, picked up the playoff shutout, and we've now hopefully taken control of the series, up 3-1, headed back to the United Center. Would love to clinch this one here in Game 5 and hopefully get a little bit of time off before our next series. Doesn't seem like anyone is really banged up, which is good. Everyone at 100% fitness, so we are going to run the same team back out there and hope that we can move on to the second round. And we are headed to the second round. 4-2 victory today. Ooh, it looks like one of their defensemen suffered a fractured hip in their final game of the year, so that's definitely not fun. Victor Eklund with 3 assists. Adrian Kemp with a goal and an assist earns the 3rd star. We got things going right from the start. Marner, Villeneuve, and then Marner with the 2nd goal to get things started in the first period. Eklund assisted on all of them. Got the goal from Kemp with assists from Rasmus Anderson and Kevin Korchinski in the second to kind of take that 4-0 lead. They did fight back in the third, got a couple goals on us, but got the win in the books. Wasn't a vintage performance from Wallstedt. Saved 16 out of 18 shots, but it seems like our defense in the last few games of the series did a pretty good job of just limiting the number of shots that they could get. We almost doubled them up, 34-18. So nice performance by the Blackhawks, and we are through to the second round. And it looks like we'll be facing another divisional rival, the Dallas Stars, in the second round of the playoffs. Larkin, Marner, Hughes, Byfield, and Wallstedt are top jersey sales. Look for the whole league. And the excellent regular season and the first round victory. Larkin, the most popular jersey in all of hockey. And Marner, Hughes, Byfield, and Wallstedt also in the top 10. Even Adrian Kemp got 6 Blackhawks among the most popular 20 jerseys. So people are jumping on the bandwagon of this excellent regular season team. Taking a look at the development report, slowed down a bit in April. Matteo Rotundi continued to improve. Guessing we'll see some. Nice to see Xavier Veilleux, the defenseman, who probably going to have a more significant role for us next year with the likely departure of Anderson and the possible departure of Jaracek this offseason. Nice to see him continuing to develop. He was really probably ready to contribute this year in his first year out of college, but we were so deep at defense that we just let him start in the ECHL and then move to the AHL, but probably wasted his talents a bit. Honestly, you could make an argument to bring him up now, and if we do have any injuries, which I'm knocking on wood and hoping we won't, to our defenseman, he would be a very logical person to allow to make his NHL debut in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And not a shock to see some of the aging guys, Rasmus Anderson, Dylan Larkin, and Mitch Marner, kind of moving in the wrong direction. You can see, Marner still a 4.5-star player, Larkin a 4-star player, Anderson the one that we are definitely moving on. Well, not definitely, but most likely moving on from is kind of, at least, according to the very general star ratings, by far the weakest of those 3 players at this stage in his career. And as I mentioned, with defensemen like Veilleux coming up, we may have to get some guys to switch a little bit from left defense to right defense, but think that we've got talent who's capable of making that move. So excited to have him on board and joining the team next year. But once again, we're not focused on next year right now. We are focused on this year and getting ready for this series against Dallas. And I don't think there's anything for us to really change in the monthly budget. We're selling out even without a lot of game promotion. Keep investing completely in scouting and team morale. So we will sim up to the beginning of this series against the Stars and find out what's going to happen here in the second round of the playoffs. But I won't make you watch the autosave because that could take a few minutes. Ooh. Hopefully it's not all crashing. I don't think it is. All right, so the autosave went fine. Hall of Fame nominee time. Nice list there. We've got choices of several players. Again, this is something that I don't spend a ton of time thinking about, so apologies if I picked the wrong guy. We'll go a little old school. Put Dave Babich on the ballot. On to the topic of the day, though. The regular season and the postseason gone as well as possible. Nobody on the team banged up at all. We are running with the guys that we want to. We took that first series against Arizona 4-1. I don't think there's any need to change our lines at all at this point. I'll take a quick look, just see. We were competing with Dallas for a while and kind of have a tougher matchup here. We're a 1 seed, they're a 2. Looks like there were upsets of the Kings and the Flames in the first round. So as I talked about, the Western Conference standings were very tight, so would not view those as a shocking upsets. But we definitely have a tougher matchup against the 102-win Stars here in the second round. They were basically the tied with the Wild in our division for the third best team in hockey with those 102 points behind just us and the Sabres. So should be a challenging matchup. Hopefully the home ice advantage will help us move on to the Western Conference Finals. And not off to a good start, 5-2 loss in the first game of the series there. And some injuries finally. Eklund looks like he's day-to-day with a shoulder injury, and Frank Nazar with a broken collarbone. So Nazar's season is definitely over, unfortunately. We no scoring in the first, 2 goals by each team in the second, and then they unloaded on us with 3 goals in the third period. So difficult start to the series, to lose 5-2 at home and to also lose 2 players, one of them for the year, and Eklund probably going to miss a few games, I would think. So we're going to give a little thought to who to bring up to replace Nazar on the roster. Probably means that the rookie Forget will be getting more consistent playing time on the fourth line. But Eklund in particular is going to be a loss. 22-year-old had his breakout season this year with 31 goals, 48 assists, more than a point a game on the season, plus 22. So it'll definitely impact our offense for the next few games without Victor Eklund being out there. And with Nazar headed to the IL and left wing Victor Eklund banged up, we brought up the left winger Linus Eriksson. He was a 4th-round draft pick of ours a few years ago, but has developed pretty well. Brought him over to the U.S. this year. You can see he spent most of the year in the AHL, was up for 14 games with the Blackhawks. Only got about less than 11 minutes ice time while he was up with us. Certainly don't think he's going to be a big-time contributor. I think right now we are probably, given the fact that Cole Sillinger can also play left wing, as can Villeneuve, go with the guys who have been on the team. But if we have any injuries going forward additionally, or if we decide to switch things up, Eriksson could definitely get some playing time. But right now the beneficiaries of the injuries to Eklund and Nazar are that Cole Sillinger and Jordan Forget going to be getting a little more playing time in the games going forward. So start getting ready for this second game, getting close to must-win situation here at home. Definitely don't want to be going on the road down 2-0. Shift up the lines, as I mentioned. We'll see what the assistant thinks. He wants to. Oh no, I don't want. I've got to fix this. I thought I had. No, that's. Okay, sorry, I'm confused. I thought I'd clicked the wrong thing and I had let the AI start changing my whole roster, but definitely a big loss for us with Eklund off of the first line. So Cotter, Sharangovich, and Duvet all move up, and now Villeneuve, Sillinger, and Forget. So it's a different looking fourth line. Villeneuve's still there, but Sillinger and Forget get promoted with those other injuries. Going to put Wallstedt back in as our number 1 goalie, and let's see if we can get game 2 here, and we do bounce back 5-1 victory. So that is the good news. Bad news is that Kevin Korchinski is banged up. So first we'll take a look at the good news. Quinn Hughes with a goal and 2 assists. Cotter with an assist. Shields with a goal. Quinn Hughes got us started in the first, and then we exploded with 4 goals in the second period. Shields, Dubé, Sillinger, and Sharangovich. And look at that. 3 of the 4 goals in the second period were first goals of the playoffs for players, including Sillinger, who was making his playoff debut after being on the bench. So that was really good to see. 46 shots on goal versus just 15 for Dallas. So nice performance all around by the Blackhawks. But we now have got to kind of take an objective look at our defense. Korchinski headed to the bench for the next few days. He's game available. Don't know that I want to be playing him if he's 80%. Also don't know that I want to put him on the injured list. There is a part of me that is tempted. If we're really not going to sign David Jaracek for next season to... Actually, I think we can move him down in the playoffs and not have to send him through waivers. Yeah, we are going to let the youngster Xavier Veilleux make his NHL debut. We are going to bring him up in the playoffs. Wasn't planning on doing this, but we are a win-now team. And Xavier Veilleux, I think, is a guy who can help us win now. Talked about him a little previously. He is a guy who we drafted towards the end of the first round in 2024. Let him kind of play out his 4-year career at Harvard, and then we signed him. And as I mentioned, I tend to be overly conservative, and I start guys out in the ECHL, even if they're way above that level in most cases, just to toughen them up a little bit. But you can see he was a pretty explosive player with the Indy Fuel with a +9 in 9 games. He's been good in Rockford this year in the AHL, and we are going to let the youngster make his debut probably tomorrow in Dallas. And if Korchinski is still at 80% fitness, the thought is that I'll play him. We're a little heavy on left defenseman right now, but both Coughlin and Rotundi, with the shifting around, can play right defense. So even though Veilleux is not as good at the right defense position right now, definitely don't want him there with a 12 positional rating. We've got enough versatility among the likes of Hughes, who we won't move, but Coughlin or Rotundi, one of them will end up being our third line right defenseman behind Anderson and Rinzel, and likely paired up with the youngster Veilleux. So going to be a little bit of a different look. He's obviously never played with any of these guys besides training camp this past season, when we did have him in camp as one of our top prospects. So there may be some loss of synergies there, but with Korchinski at 80%, figure we are better off going with the youngster Veilleux. Eklund's still going to be out, and after getting a win in the first game with Sillinger and Forget in the lineup and getting that goal from Sillinger, Eriksson going to still be on the bench. We'll see how the AI would set this up. Wow, they're putting Veilleux right on the second line with Anderson. I don't think the AI put a ton of thought into this. I think they just look at the skills of the players and see that Veilleux is incredibly talented. But I do like that Rotundi and Coughlin then stay paired up, and Veilleux is on a line with a 32-year-old veteran player who's kind of been through everything. So I don't think that's necessarily a horrible pairing, and we'll see how it plays out here in a important Game 3 at Dallas. Ooh, 7-5 loss, so a lot of offense. Unfortunately, there was more of it for Dallas. Quinn Hughes did have 3 assists. Marner and Kemp got us goals in the first period. We fell down 2-0, and they got us back in the game. But the second period, Dallas just really took us out with 3 straight goals. We came back in the third, got it to 5-4 after goals by Larkin and Kemp, but then they kind of put things out of reach. Wow, look at that last 4 minutes of the game. It was 5-3 with 2 minutes and 12 seconds to go. 4 goals in the final 2:12. We make it 5-4. They come back with 2 straight to take control of the game and certainly clinch the game. And then Quentin Byfield, the high-priced free agent, with his first of the playoffs finally, with 3 seconds left in the final period. Hopefully that will inspire him to greater heights in the rest of these games. Wallstedt, obviously not good. 6 goals allowed on 34 shots. They obviously got an empty netter there from Oscar Bach. So the decision now is, do we keep going with Wallstedt here in a not quite desperate situation, but we're only one game away from being in a must-win situation. Do we think about changing things up? Looks like Korchinski and Eklund are both game available, still only 80% fitness, so I don't know that I want to change that up, although you look at Veyu's game score and it was horrible, especially his defensive ratings. But we got beat 7-5. It wasn't all because of Xavier Veyu. You can see that a lot of our other defensemen were not particularly effective, which you're going to expect when we get crushed like that. Interesting decisions right here. I think I'm inclined to run back the exact same lineup, but I think I'm going to give Sveta back a chance in goal. It may seem like a desperate move, but you could argue that he's just as talented, if not more talented, than Wallstedt. Wallstedt just got completely destroyed on road ice. Sveta back is certainly not hot right now. Wallstedt is hotter, but I'm going to change things up here in Game 4. See if we can even things up. And we do get a 3-0 win, so found a little magic there perhaps with Sveta back in Game 4, which is the good news. May have opened myself up to a goalie controversy, which is not as good news, but Sveta back with the number 1 star, 28 saves, got the shutout, and then Cotter with a goal and an assist, Shields with an assist. And it does look like that late goal by Quinton Byfield when he finally got his first playoff goal for the Blackhawks in Game 3 did carry over. He got the scoring started in Game 4, and we scored all 3 of our goals in the first period, Byfield, Larkin, and Cotter, and just held on with the great goaltending from Sveta back after that. So after getting that Game 2 win, we are, or Game 4 win, our second win of the series, we are back on serve, to use a tennis analogy, and 2 of the next 3 potential games will be home in Chicago. Certainly has proven to be a pretty good battle between 2 of the top teams in hockey here in the Western Conference semifinals. And as I said, we have now opened ourselves up to a bit of a potential goalie controversy with the great performance from Sveta back in Game 4 there. Got a tough decision to make on a lot of levels. Who's going to play in goal for us? I think we are going to keep Korchinski and Eklund both out. With that 80% fitness level, would love to have them both back, quite honestly. You can see by the game ratings, Veyu certainly played better in Game 2 of his career than he did in his debut. I'm pretty sure everyone played better than they did in that first game. Sveta back with that 100 game rating. Can't get any better than that, that's for sure. And Sveta back is viewed as being somewhat hot now, obviously coming off of that. We are going to go back to Wallstedt. We're at home. This is the team that we've been running with. If we lose here, we're going to obviously turn right back to Sveta back in a must-win Game 4 in Dallas. But I want to quell the potential controversy before it even becomes something. Sveta back may have saved the season with that win 2 days ago. He did his job. We're going back to our number 1 netminder. and we get a 3-2 win. So it was hard earned. Villeneuve improving at left wing with more time there. Luke Coughlin converting to right defense. He's converted back and forth a few times this year as between left and right his primary position, as we've been playing him more at right defense. And Eklund is completely recovered. So good news all around. Forget, the rookie, with a goal and an assist, gets his the first star of the game and also his first playoff goal after being pressed into duty because of that injury to Nazar. Another goal from Larkin. Villeneuve gave us one. Sillinger, who's getting some playing time because of the injuries, got an assist. Faced 31 shots, so pretty nice performance in goal from Wallstedt. Saved 29 of the 31 shots. Ottinger for the Stars saved 36 of 39, so the fact that we got so many more extra shots on goal may have been the difference here. But a 3-2 win for the Blackhawks, and seems like the team is getting slightly healthier. So still feel like we have a little bit of a decision to make as far as the goaltending, although I think things have stabilized a bit. But Svedabak was just so good in Dallas a few days ago that there's part of me that thinks bring him back, but don't necessarily want to do that quite yet. But what we do want to do is get Mr. Eklund back into the lineup, because he is a critical offensive force for us. It will definitely be a boost to have him back. And I think that means, I feel better with Sillinger. I just don't know if we really have a fourth guy. I guess Villeneuve is capable of playing right wing, so maybe we will shift that around. So Forget, it's hard to take him out of the lineup after he just scored a goal. But I think that Sillinger is a more important player to us. I mean, Sillinger, we're paying over $5 million a year. He's only played 59 games this year because we've just been so loaded at center, and we've been trying to ensure that the youngster Villeneuve gets some action. But, those guys behind the dynamic trio of Larkin, Byfield, and Beniers have just been kind of picking up the scraps in terms of their playing time. But we're going to put Forget on the bench, obviously get Eklund back into the lineup. I think we'll let Korchinski sit. I think we're better off even if Veilleux is making his NHL debut here in the playoffs. He's now got 3 games under his belt at this point, and I would rather have him at 100% than Korchinski at an 80% fitness level. So we'll see what the assistant thinks for lines. I'm obviously going to potentially overrule them, but I do they put Villeneuve at right wing, which is what I thought should happen. So Eklund, Byfield, and Marner back together. Cotter, Larkin, and Shields. Sharangovich, Beniers, and Kemp in that pretty high-powered third line in terms of potential scoring. And then move Villeneuve from left wing over to right wing where he's capable of playing. The AI says to go with Svedabak. I'm going to go with Wallstedt. I would love to get him a little hotter, potentially heading on to a Western Conference Finals. Obviously, we've still got to win a game to get there, so there's no guarantees, but going to try to do it on the road with the guy who we want to be our starter. If we lose today, though, then we're in a situation where we're going to Svedabak in a Game 7 at home, unless, it's a 1-0 loss or something. I don't know. I'm opening myself up to a lot of potential controversy here, but we'll see what happens at Dallas in a 4-1 loss. So that is definitely the type of loss that's going to make me second guess a lot of things. We probably have to, after that, go to Svedabak for Game 7 at home, which is putting a lot of pressure on him. But it may need to be done. Not even going to look at the box score there. Well, I guess I need to look at I'll go back and look at that just to. I don't think there were any injuries, and I don't think that Wallstedt would have gotten pulled given the score in that game. So I'm pretty sure he's responsible for all of those goals. So it's gonna be interesting though. Faced 39 shots from Dallas. Ottinger for them stood on his head. Yeah, Wallstedt, he faced 39 shots. He saved 35. His save percentage was still almost 90%. He's obviously been about 20 basis points higher than that through the course of the season, but was not horrible. But can I run him back out there here in this game 7? This is the big decision. Korchinski is now healthy. I think we go with the young veteran rather than the youngster. I know Veilleux on paper looks better than these guys. Again, from the star ratings at least, but just looking at the game ratings for the playoffs, and he's been weaker. Issue is that Rasmus Andersson and Luke Coughlin, a couple of our right defensemen, look like the weakest in terms of the game ratings, but Veilleux unfortunately doesn't have the capability to play right defense at a real high level right now. Other than that, Eriksson and Forget think that they're both the healthy scratches for the rookies. So actually the 3 rookies who are on the roster are the 3 healthy scratches here for pivotal game 7. Question is where we go in goaltender. And you can see we're at a situation now where they're both viewed as relatively cool, although Svedabak is obviously coming off of that shutout in the pivotal game 4. I think we go back to Svedabak. Definitely a decision that can be second-guessed. Some of you may be first-guessing it right now. But he pitched a shutout in his one performance, and he is 1-0 in this series. Wallstedt is 2-3 in this series. So we're going to the backup here in a pivotal game 7 as the Blackhawks try to get to the Western Conference Finals. And it was not to be. A 5-4 loss here in Game 7. And the season is over in a very disappointing fashion for the Blackhawks after having the best record in hockey. Granted, we were only 4 points better than the Stars, and they were a division rival, so we certainly expected it was going to be a tough series. Cotter got the second star. Dallas put 34 shots on goal, so it certainly wasn't a great performance by Svedabak in the net. We did have a 3-2 lead early in the second period. They came back with a couple of goals from Dragicevic to take the 4-3 lead into the third, made it 5-3. Marner came back to make it close, but the season is over in disappointing fashion. Svedabak, not great. .853 save percentage. Obviously, he got pulled near the end when we were getting desperate. So may have made the wrong choice there. I'm sure some of you will let me know down below if you disagree with what I did, and always love to hear the thoughts and feedback. But the season is over for our Chicago Blackhawks. Ends in a disappointing fashion. Team harmony has been great. The locker room in great shape. Job security good. Fan happiness was close to 100, which was great progress this year. The fans were not in open revolt, but they had been pretty disappointing with our previous seasons. And you can see that over the course of this season, we started with the fans hating us. The signings of Byfield and Beniers definitely helped, and then most importantly, a lot of success on the ice helped. And you can see we, over the course of the playoffs, got our fan happiness up to 100 with that first round win, and we were up at 100 when we came back, and we're up in the playoff series, 3-2. So we had every opportunity in the world, and we lost Game 6 and Game 7 with 2 different goalies. Lost the playoff round, upset in the playoffs, so fan happiness dips to an 86. And the Blackhawks season, unfortunately, ends earlier than we would have hoped. Upset by the Stars. So the final 4 teams, Vancouver, Dallas, Montreal, and Columbus. Dallas, 102-point team. Vancouver, 93. Montreal, 91. And Columbus, 101. So Dallas and Columbus still alive, 2 of the 5 teams in hockey with over 100 points this past year. You would think that they are both the favorites against the Canadiens and the Canucks. So kind of interesting. 2 Canadian teams going against 2 American teams in the conference finals. And unfortunately for us, the Blackhawks are not one of them. So the season is over. It was very successful in terms of the regular season, very successful in terms of injuries. But ultimately it was not successful because we were the best team in hockey over the course of the regular season. We were one of the Stanley Cup favorites, and we didn't get to the Stanley Cup finals. We didn't even get to the Western Conference finals, so it has to be viewed as a disappointing season. As I talked about, there's going to be some potentially significant changes coming next year with Rasmus Anderson, Adrian Kemp, and potentially Paul Cotter moving on, as well as the fact that Jarachek, who we demoted to bring up Veilleux, we've also got to figure out what to do with him. So we're going to have some big decisions to make over the next month and a half before the year officially flips to the 2029 to 2030 season. Like I said, we made some progress with the team this year. Feel like with the roster that we have and the players that we're going to be running back should be in contention for the Stanley Cup for several years to come. So from that perspective, I think the rebuild has been successful, but 7 years into the rebuild, we've got 4 playoff appearances and 1 unexpected Stanley Cup championship. But this year, a year that it would have been a more, I don't want to say expected, but a more understood Stanley Cup championship. Can't even get to the Western Conference Finals. So a little bit disappointing, but we will do our best to bounce back. We are going to have a shiny new old school sports arena with even more capacity and more amenities to be playing in next year. So hopefully we'll continue to sell out most of our games, give the fans something to cheer on in the regular season. And with the fact that we've got, at least $12.5 million coming off the books, we are going to have the opportunity to make a move in free agency potentially. Obviously, there's a lot that can happen between now and then. A lot of these guys can be signed before they hit the open market. You can see our guy Cotter is viewed right now as one of the top potential upcoming free agents. He's looking for about $4 million a year, so that would be a pretty significant range, but have to think in the coming weeks about potentially bringing him back. And then, some of these young guys certainly look like high potential players if we could bring them on board. Issue is a lot of the top prospects are centers, and in the case of Johnson, Celebrini, and Garland, pretty young centers, but that's kind of the position that we just don't need. Looks like Garland can also play right wing. Kent Johnson can play left wing. Celebrini is more of a pure center. So we will have some decisions to make over the next month and a half before we get to the off season. Always can try to hit the trade market up too. We certainly want to keep this team as competitive as possible. Think that we are in our window to win right now. Was hoping to, as I said, close the United Center with a fifth championship for the Blackhawks in that building. That will not be the case, and now the goal turns to getting this team ready to hopefully christen the Old School Sports Arena next year with a Stanley Cup championship, and that will certainly be the goal. We've got a lot of work to do to get there, and then we've got a long season ahead of us with potential for injuries, potential for unexpected happenings, but that is the fun of the game. Until our next episode, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.